Wrecking machine. I'll take it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
And it's a bad hair day too.
So she's like, scream for me, and then it's just that's
It was a good risk to take, and it was great.
Boom! I'm gonna try and give you a friend, and then I was like,
I wish you had like a granny mask.
That would be so cool, or like a ghost uniform.
And everybody was like totally freaked out.
Hi.
hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kia ora. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
To it. My guest today is a musician that I first connected with many years ago. She is the vocalist for the symphonic metal band Rainover. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Andrea Casanova. Bring her in.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can see me right now.
Everything should be looking good. So how are you, Andrea?
Very well, and actually quite happy to be here finally after, like you said, so many years on and off on Facebook and YouTube, just trying to get to this very moment. So it's finally great to be here with you, of course.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's crazy that I guess it took a pandemic to get us together. So yeah, I always start with all my guests in terms of things that are current, in terms of where they're living. So how are things in terms of the lockdown pandemic situation in Spain?
Well, in Spain, it depends very much on the area you live in. And right now, things are not at its worst, but also not super good. And yeah, well, right now, for example, for us in the band, we live in two different areas, which are very close to each other. We're practically neighbors, but we live in different areas. So that means that actually we haven't been able to see each other for like months. I don't know, since September. It was the last time that we met all together because we aren't allowed to other regions and stuff. But it is what it is. So.
Wow. Yeah. No. Again, the other guests that I've had on have talked about similar things, especially when they were trying to either like work on music or a video. It's like they're sending files back and forth because they couldn't physically be in the same room with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's created, quite obviously a hard time for recording, but also a hard time just that we can't be doing shows right now.
Yeah, we had some shows lined up last year because we were actually supposed to release our second album, which also couldn't happen. So everything was canceled, and right now we're just kind of waiting. Also because we thought maybe we could get this time to write and compose, and we're doing some things, but we're also the kind of band that likes to get together in the same room to write. So even if we have tracks that we write individually, we always like to give it the style and the extra touch all together. So we haven't been able to do that either. But anyway, yeah.
Well, hopefully at some point this year, things will start to open up and allow bands like yourselves to actually, be together and work on things and start moving forward with what you love doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. At least we've been able to shoot a video clip, which we actually intended to do very much earlier, but in the end, we only managed to do in like September. We had several days for shooting, and I remember the final day we couldn't meet any longer because of the restrictions. But thankfully, that final day was only for some of my parts, so we managed to finish it, luckily. But yeah, it's difficult, but it is what it is, as I said. So we need to adapt to it somehow.
Yeah, no, I think that during this time, it's been interesting to see how people, especially creative people, how they've managed to pivot during this time to make things happen. And if it's something you're passionate about, then you'll find a way.
Kind of. I know some bands have been luckier because they live in the same region, so at least they can rehearse. Or we were also planning a couple of live recordings on a studio for this album, but we're waiting. I mean, we still need to see when we are able to travel, to rehearse, to do everything. But yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about Rainover some more, but just for my own benefit, I would love to go back to the kind of the earlier days for you as a musician, as an artist, and then because that's how we kind of connected through YouTube and some stuff you were doing. So if you take me back to the early days, what got you interested in music?
Well, I've been singing practically forever. I obviously I don't remember exactly the start of it because my mother tells me that when I was, I don't know, 3 years old, there were these musical performances on TV, and I used to always watch them and sing along and stuff. And actually, when I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, I said, oh, I want to be a singer when I grow up. And actually, I joined my first choir when I was 6 years old. It was quite an amateur thing, of course. But then when I was 9 years old, I joined another choir. And there we actually did some more important things, even if we were children, because we would travel to several places in Spain. We would also record 2 CDs with that choir. So that's where it all started. I would also sing sometimes alone when people would ask me, or in school and whatever. And that's how we started. I've always loved it, actually.
Okay, so when you were doing the choir and the singing at an early age, is all your training from the choirs? Were you taking private lessons on your own?
Yeah, actually, it started there, and I was there because in that second choir we did classical music. It wasn't like a lyrical kind of singing, but more like a white voices kind of thing. So with a vibrato, but we started getting some basses. I also studied for 4 years at the Professional Conservatory of Music, but I did not do singing. I did oboe, which is like an instrument I wasn't very much keen on, to be honest, but it also gave me some basis, and we also did a specific subject of choir there. And then when I was 18, I signed up for private lessons with my first teacher, and that's what really made all the difference. I had been listening to metal for like 3 years or something like that, and I realized that I needed some more technique to be able to sing at the level that I wanted to sing the kind of music. So I joined these lessons, and they made all the difference, because actually vocals are a pretty complicated thing, and it's always useful to have a guide of somebody who really knows what they're doing there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for the kind of music that you, especially the kind of music that you're singing now, with an operatic style, that you have to have technique, and you have to know how to protect your voice and what you're doing with your chords. So if you don't do it the correct way, you could have a very short career.
Yeah. I remember I used to, I don't know, when I was like 16 years old, I used to spend, I arrived from high school, and I spent like, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours singing and just trying to reach the notes. And sometimes I want like, be careful. So that's when I said, okay, you need to really learn how to do it right, because otherwise it's even dangerous for your own health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And hi, Bessie over in Greece. I see that you made a comment there on YouTube, so thank you for joining us. She loves symphonic bands and that type of thing. That's how we kind of got connected. She also loves The Warning, which is a band from Mexico that we both like. But I'm curious. So when you, again, we were talking about this pre-show that you had some clips. I think they're still up on YouTube of you performing live with a band of like three friends or what have you, covering some songs. Was that in college, or what time? What was that?
No, well, actually, I have very old videos still uploaded there. In fact, sometimes I will go and review them and say, this should maybe not be up, but I like it for the memories. But those particular videos were, if I may say so myself, pretty good. Even if we were quite young, that was like 10 years ago. In fact, exactly 10 years ago, now that I've checked it. And no, there was actually, it's a bit of a fun story, because I told you before that I joined singing lessons when I was 18. And my teacher, she opened a restaurant. and she wanted to have musical shows in the restaurant while people were having a drink or whatever. And it ended up being a place where all musicians from my city would gather and play at the weekends and stuff. It was pretty cool, even if it only lasted for some months. And she offered me to do an acoustic show there, and that's what we did. I got a couple of friends, and we prepared the set list of some of our favorite songs, some of the Gathering songs. I think that's why you found me, actually.
Yep.
We played The Gathering and Within Temptation, and also some other things. I actually, there's no video of this, but we played also an Amy Winehouse track, and some songs from Spanish artists. It was a bit of everything, but yeah, I did many songs of The Gathering because I love them, and I still do, and it was my occasion to actually perform them live.
I see. That's thank you for sharing that background. I had no idea. I thought maybe it was like a college concert thing. I didn't know where that was. And you're right. It was because of The Gathering, and I think one of the video clips I remember from my memory was that I think you did In Motion #2.
Yeah.
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 I just remember hearing your voice. I'm like, who is that? And that's why I reached out to you, trying to figure out. And this was back in, again, 10 years ago. YouTube was a little bit different back then.
Yeah, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think you were the very first person ever to ask me for an interview, ever, in that YouTube comment. And still, it has taken us 10 years to get to this moment, but it's okay.
Yeah, no, that's awesome I didn't even know that, but I don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally got to a point where we're actually getting a chance to have a conversation, talk about all this. But yeah, I distinctly remember thinking, wow, her voice is so nice, and you could tell that there's probably going to be even more great things coming out of you, vocally and musically, because look how good it sounded at that point. And yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think you even had like just a fan clip of you singing with Annika, like after a show or something outside.
There was after a show, yeah, that was in 2012, I think. Yeah, she came to play in Barcelona, and of course, being the big fan that I am, especially back then, I traveled with some friends. And but actually, this story comes from a bit earlier, because I have a similar video, only a little less emotional than that one. With I don't know if you know them, but Draconian. They, before having Heike, which is their current female singer, they had Lisa, and they came to play in Spain. I don't know, the 2008 maybe. And after the show, I went to her and we sang together. And the same friends were there, and we shot a video and everything. So when we came to see Anneke, my friends told me, hey, please ask her to sing with you, and we do a similar video. And I was like, oh, no, I cannot do that. I cannot even breathe. How could I sing together with her? But they said, I'm sure she will say yes, because she's such a nice person. And I don't know how, but I managed to ask her if she wanted to sing with me, and she accepted. So I have that beautiful treasure of a video right now.
Yeah, no, that's got to be amazing. That would be like if I played guitar with one of my favorite guitarists or something. I'd be like completely nervous about doing that.
Yeah, in fact, I'm remembering it, and I'm still a bit nervous, because I transport myself to the moment, and I'm a bit of a fangirl to some people too, so why not admit it?
Yeah, no, and for me, I didn't get a chance to meet her in person until 2019, and it had been 12 years since her band had ever been here to the U.S., in Seattle at least. And so, and she's the nicest person in person, and so sweet. And then I got a chance to virtually interview her back in February because of the new album.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, it's just amazing. She's been a huge influence on my life, and obviously on yours too, it sounds like. So
Yeah, indeed.
yeah, and this is kind of uncanny to me, but when I listen to you talk, you actually sound like her a little bit, and I don't know why that is, because you're from different countries. And then...
Talking, I don't know. I'm used to watching interviews from many artists who come from the Netherlands. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I kind of got that accent. I don't know. You're the first person telling me this. I don't know. It could be.
Yeah, that's kind of uncanny. I'm just thinking about what she was saying to me during that interview last month, and then I'm listening to you right now. It's not exactly the same, but there's a little resemblance there.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, so if we talk about, so we talked about those early videos, that how we connected on YouTube. How did you end up eventually becoming the singer for Rainover?
Well, actually, when I was like 17 years old, I was convinced I would someday have a band of my own in the style that I wanted, which was quite a wild dream because where I live, there are not many bands playing that style. Not to say maybe we might be one of the only ones. So I didn't know anybody doing that style. I started singing as a guest for some heavy metal scenes, which were not exactly what I wanted, but close, fairly close. And finally, I got to be a guest singer for a band who played something like death metal for a song and live shows. But actually, some of them were friends with the guys from Rainover, and so they knew that they were looking for a new female singer, and they told me. And they also talked to the guys about me, and they put us in touch. So I just went to an audition, and they got me. They chose me just like 3 or 4 months before recording the first album, actually. So it was pretty crazy back at the time, but I think we managed to make it sound all right.
Okay, so if they chose you as their new singer about 3 or 4 months before the new album, well, that at that time the debut album, for them with you on vocals, did you have input into the songwriting, or was everything already written and ready to go?
I did have input because the tracks, well, they had another singer, so she had written a big part of melodies and lyrics, and when she went away, she took all of that away as well, as it's natural. So approximately half of the songs were fully written, kind of, so I basically got to add some twists, style, and everything. But the other half was still were yet to be written, so I could contribute with lyrics and melodies to a big part of those. I think it was 6 songs, something like, or 6 or 7 songs maybe. And the lyrics, I wrote them together with Kinney, who is also the drummer, who had written also a part already of them. So we like worked together in some tracks. Some other tracks he did alone, some other I did alone. And I also got to write some melodies, which was quite nice. Of course, the main basis of the songs was already done, but I could write some melodies and lyrics, and that was very cool. Yeah, even if we had only a little time to do so.
Okay, and when you were recording the Transcending album, how many months or weeks was that in the studio?
Well, weeks or months. We were in Italy to record for I believe it was 21 days.
Yeah.
But actually less, because the first day and the last day were on the plane, so 19 days. But my vocals were recorded in like 4 or 5 days only, and it was quite stressful because I hit the studio a day and I recorded a track just to try a bit and see. It was Despair, the second track on the album. That was the first time that I recorded. And then I don't know why, the day after I arrived in the studio and I had no voice, and I had to catch the plane 4 days after. So I kind of panicked, and I said, okay, I need to do something. And what I did was try to shut up completely, sleep a lot, drink a lot of water. And I came back the day after and I could finally sing. So in like 3 days, I managed to record the rest of the album. And it was, after coming back to Spain, I spent a lot of time thinking the things that I could have done a bit better. But in the end, I'm quite satisfied with the final result, especially considering how little time I had.
Yeah, that's crazy that you only had 4 days and then you lost your voice, and
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think it happened because actually, I was 20 years old when I actually recorded that album, and I was so excited to be recording that after I finished the first track. I believe I spent all night talking with the guys and and talking and cheering and stuff. And also it was very, very hot because it was in August. And we had the air conditioning functioning at full power, and that's very harmful for your vocal cords. But I didn't know back then. So those two things combined, they were the perfect storm for my vocals, actually.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I know a lot of bands, especially when they're touring, that the AC and the tour, in the van and the bus and that kind of thing wrecks the vocalists' vocals. And then before and after the show, they would love to talk to the fans, but they have to kind of monitor like how much they do because they got to protect the voice for the next show.
Yeah, it's terrible because actually it's a way to communicate with people, but it's also our instrument. So we need to be able somehow to keep a balance somehow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I've actually been on like the other side of it when it comes to doing some of the in-person interviews. I've had, I won't mention her name, but she was saying that she was starting to develop vocal issues on tour. So the press part of it, she had to start cutting it all down to like only one interview per city. And so she's like, Mark, if that makes you feel better, you're the one I picked. So like, it does make me feel better, but I feel bad for you that if you need to rest your voice, we can not do this and just go ahead and rest on the tour bus or whatever you need to do. And she still wanted to do it. But
yeah, it's a lot of pressure also because actually the from man is also the person doing the most interviews. So you need to be able to manage everything and also be able, I mean, other guys in the band can go and party and talk and whatever they want to do, but you need to sleep and you need to be quiet and you need, it's a very different thing. And on that kind of environment, it can be very difficult, especially when, for example, you're playing, I don't know, in a festival, and after you play, fans come to see you and to talk to you and you want to talk to them, but there is so much background noise that you actually start yelling and you end up losing half of your voice. So it's a difficult thing. So I understand when some singers said that they prefer going straight to the hotel, even if it's not, as a fan myself, I do not like that, but I also understand it because sometimes they need to choose. Either they talk to people or they do a good show the next day. So it's difficult.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. I mean, you know both sides of it. And I know like I had an interview scheduled with Charlotte from Delane and well, formerly of Delane, I guess I have to say now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she had came down with something, so she was texting me, said, Mark, is it okay if I have somebody else in the band do the interview because I have to save my voice? I completely understood that because the show's number one. It has to be that way. Unfortunately, some fans get a little, they get a little hurt by that kind of thing, but it's like, hey, this is their job. This is what they do. So if they could do everything and talk to you for 2 hours, they would do it, but it doesn't work that way. You have to talk to the guys or the other people in the band that like play the instrument. Because like you said, they can talk all they want because they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For example, we've been on tour in England, and I remember the guys went to the bar until 4 a.m. And at 10 p.m. I was already sleeping, and I was like, oh, it's unfair, but it is what it is. In the end, it's like that.
Well, and before we talk about Knox, I'm curious about since when Transcending came out and you talked about you've played shows, in many countries. Are there any tour memories you have off the top of your head that stand out for any particular reason?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Do not want to leave anything out, but two memories. I have first the release show because it was very special to finally play those songs live. Because actually it took us also a long time to get the album released again. And it was great to finally be able to play them on a stage. And we had lots of friends and also fans coming from different parts of Spain. Back then, we weren't really known at all outside of Spain at the very first moment we put it out. Or we were starting to sound in some radios, but only it was a minimal thing. And there were people coming from other areas of Spain, and that was beautiful to see. Actually, we were just a little band, and people cared enough to come see us at our small city, so that's nice. And aside from this, probably my best memory ever on stage with Rainover was in England when we played. We did a run of 3 shows, kind of. Probably the biggest one we did was at the Dames of Darkness Festival. We were playing with Sirenia and Wisdom and Leap Size. It was a beautiful weekend, and honestly, I couldn't have hoped for a better welcome by people. We saw lots of people wearing our T-shirt, and we saw, I don't know, after the show we had this will sound like an exaggeration, but we had like a 3 hours queue on the merch stand, which I don't think normally happens. I don't know. We just clicked with the people there, and it was a moment in which I said, okay, this is a difficult thing. This is a difficult path, but this makes it worthy. Of course, we haven't had the experience that other bigger bands have of doing long tours yet, but we did have some moments in which we could touch it, and it's very special to see how people are moved by your music. It's the most wonderful thing, actually.
Yeah, no, that's got to be amazing, and particularly when you're not necessarily expecting it. When you did the festival, and then you just, like you said, you connected with the audience on a really big, large way, because look how many people got in line to buy merch and try to say hello to the band and anything else. So that's got to make you just
I know some people knew us from the previous date, which we had done a month earlier, actually. So we already knew some people would know us, but not so many people, even people who had never heard our name. So that was great, indeed.
Yeah, well, and hopefully at some point you'll get a chance to come to America and see, because this style of music that Rainover does is huge here, and it's just been growing and growing and growing from all the bands that you love. So there's more opportunities once we get past all of this stuff
at some point.
and get bands back on the road, and hopefully get to a point where international bands can come to America and play some live shows, because I can't wait to see live music again. It's ridiculous how long it's been that I've seen anything live.
A year, basically.
Yeah, it's been crazy. But the silver lining is that I have had a chance to do these virtual interviews and connect with people that I most likely wouldn't have been able to do if things were still quote unquote normal. So, but let's kind of move into. I know fans that are watching this now or watching this down the road know that you had recorded. Knox was basically ready to go. What can you tell me about the recording and writing process for that album?
The writing process, we are not. We take our time when it comes to writing, and sometimes, actually, the first 2 of the tracks were written by the time we released the previous album. No. By the time we had the release show, because I remember we played one of them at that show. So it's been kind of a long time coming. And some songs we will write in like, I don't know, a day or 2, and then they're ready to go. And then some others we will spend months actually playing with them and seeing if what the right thing is for that particular track. And actually, we kind of try to follow the path of the previous album, but it's different because the songs are more complex. We're not we're not a progressive band whatsoever, but more complex compared to what we did with the previous album. And that was something natural. We just kept on walking the trail, and we got some songs which might sound a bit more in the vein of what we've done, but overall it's more complex. The arrangements are more complex too, and in fact we hadn't noticed until we did the pre-productions that the album is also a bit darker, if I may say so. We still have these tracks that are a bit more lively, upbeat, like in the previous album, but most of them are darker. They're also way longer, most of them, I think. And they still have our style, which I'm not very sure how to define it, but it's like melodic and atmospheric, and we still have that. The recording process this time had to be a bit different, because the other time we went all together to Italy, And this time we didn't quite manage to find a time or place in which we could all meet for a month, for a complete month. So what we did was first the drummer and bass player traveled to Italy to record their parts. Bass player also does backing vocals. And after they came back, we went there to record vocals, guitars, and keyboards. And this time it was, to me personally, even if I had a little bit more time, not much more time, but a little bit more time, it was more intense because this time the audio engineer wanted it to be very, very natural and not have to touch anything too much so that you could really feel the real performance. I mean, nowadays in studio, they always add these little touches and stuff. And there's so much more you can do, from doing nothing to actually getting a different voice whatsoever. But for this album, we really wanted to have a very natural thing. So I had to repeat everything so many times for so many hours that it was, to me, it was very intense physically too. But in the end, I came out pretty satisfied with the result. And honestly, I really can't wait for people to listen to it. Honestly, because it sounds bigger than the other album. It sounds darker in a way than the other album. And honestly, I listened to it and I enjoy listening to it. And I'm looking forward to people being able to do that too. And I know I talk a lot, so if you want to talk more instead, just be free to do so.
No, not at all. I love the fact that you like to talk a lot. That's better than if you don't, because then it makes it hard on me as the interviewer. But I can say, as from the fan side, that when I heard the first little clips that were put on YouTube, and then Lobo's been up there for the entire songs online, that it does sound bigger. The production sounds bigger. It sounds more mature because you've been in the band for a while now, obviously. And so it was just like, wow, I can't wait for this to come out. And so what can you talk? I know the fans are kind of wondering what's going on with this album, because it sounds like it's already ready to go.
Yeah, in fact, we have everything ready. Right now, we even have a video clip ready. It's been finished this very same week. However, I think you might know that we had some problems in the past with the release of the album. It was supposed to be released back in April 2020. Yeah, like almost a year ago, but we had some trouble with all the situation. And then we had to start from scratch with all the promotional plan. And unfortunately, we don't have a date yet, and it pains me very much to say this, but it is what it is. I would have loved to be able to come here and say, hey, I have a date and this is the date, but unfortunately, I cannot say this yet. And I'm very sorry, because I'm conscious that people have been waiting for a year. I mean, even longer, because our previous album was released in 2014, so you can imagine. And we're so very thankful that people are still there, sticking by and waiting and writing to us. And so we're like a bit frustrated that it hasn't come out yet. We're just looking for the best options, because, as I said, we had to start from scratch. And just to try and give it a good exit and a good release. And I mean, we could have had some options to release it, maybe, but they wouldn't have been too good for the album. So we're just trying to make the most of it, because we really believe in the material that we have under our belt with this album. And we really want to give it the best possible release. Of course, we want it to happen as soon as possible. Of course, we want it to happen this year, please. But in a good way. It's like maybe we could have, I don't know, release the tracks on YouTube and say, here they are. But we wanted to do something else, and we have a plan considering the video and the other promotional stuff. Unfortunately, we couldn't finish all the promotional stuff, all the extra stuff that we had wanted to make because of the pandemics either, which is one thing that has complicated absolutely everything to us. But eventually we'll get there. We actually have, I don't think we've said this before, but we have an extra track recorded outside of the album already to be released after the album. I mean, we have lots of materials to work with. We're just trying to get a good way to release them, and hopefully that will come sooner than later. And again, we're very sorry to have people waiting, honestly.
Well, I think your fan base knows and understands that you're trying to find the best way to release the album and get everything. It sounds like all the stuff's kind of getting there. Some, like you said, the pandemic affected some of this for sure. And then, but once it kind of gets to where, okay, well, we have this, and this, and now we're ready to go, then it's almost like that anticipation for the release will be that much bigger when it actually comes out than for the fans.
Hopefully so, yeah. We had quite. There was some anticipation already. We were just posting dates back a year, and I'm a bit sad because we kind of lost the momentum after we had to cancel everything. But I'm hopeful we will be able to bring that back with us whenever we have a date, because I really don't want to start saying, okay, it will be released soon. No, whenever I have a date, I will just publish it, and then we will start bringing back the magic, because we had the storyline already and everything, and it's happened like this, and that's what we got. So we had some trouble also with the digital distributors and stuff. So we were kind of trying to get back on track. Unfortunately, we also have daily jobs, which also adds to things being difficult, because we're not with Incantation or Nightwish who have an enormous team working with them. So we need to do a lot of things by ourselves, everything by ourselves, actually. So it's a bit difficult, but I'm sure it will be worth it once it's finally out at some point this year.
Yeah, again, for those people, like especially if you happen to be new, if you came to my channel or wondering who Rainover are, go to their channel on YouTube, because like there already are some clips of the audio up, so you can get an idea of what's coming eventually when this album comes out, because it sounds tremendous. So, and I think just because of this pandemic time, you will be able to get that momentum back, because every band's in the same situation for the most part, that they got stuck because of different things that happened. And if you're a DIY band like you guys, where you're doing all the work, then there's other bands in the same things. Like, so do we put this album out now? Do we wait? What are we going to do about a video? Do we just do a lyric video? What do we do right now? Because it's like putting something out there, but then they can't tour behind it. And so that just kind of
yeah. In fact, I know some artists who decided to postpone just because of that. It wasn't exactly our case, but other problems were involved too, also related with this situation. One problem is you don't know when we're going to tour again. So we're not exactly waiting for live music to start happening again, because that would be, I don't know, another year, I don't know. So when everything is ready, we'll just release it and hopefully be able to tour. But if we can't, at least we will give people something to listen to, even if it's at home.
Okay. Well, and just as kind of a side note, I was kind of poking around through. I think you guys still have your big cartel site up for the previous album, and I think there was a T-shirt.
We do.
Is that merchandise Is it still available to buy?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we have many CDs left. Actually, in fact, we did several editions, but at least some of them should be still there. So if it's on the big cartel store, it is still available, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, we're still getting purchases of that first album, which is great news, because it means there are still people who are getting to know us anew right now. So it's wonderful, and we're very thankful whenever we get purchases of that old material. It's great.
Yeah, because that's why I was kind of looking at. I said, okay, the stuff's still there, because I had a couple people asking me about that who love the style of music, but they weren't familiar with you guys. I said, well, I think you just go buy the CD here, and that's why I double checked, and it was still listed there. So there you go. There you go, people. Go buy it.
Thank you.
And so I'm also curious, Andrea, do you ever work on music just for yourself, like maybe for a solo thing down the road, something outside of Rainover?
Yeah, in fact, I've been doing some solo stuff, only not with original music as of yet. But I've worked as a session musician. I've done some studio things, but overall some live appearances. In the last few years, I've worked, for example, with the I don't know if I may say the name in Spanish or English, but the Orquesta Sinfónica de la Región de Murcia, which is a symphonic orchestra, a proper orchestra of Murcia, which is the place the band comes from. That was like a couple of years back. We've done some shows of normally what we do together is mix popular music with classical music, and it ends up being quite a cool thing. I know we played stuff you wouldn't imagine me singing, maybe like Beyonce or stuff like this, but it's very cool. I've done that. I've also done recently, for example, the Disney shows. I don't know if you've watched any of this. I uploaded a video. Yeah, it was like for two years in a row, I've done like a Christmas show with another band of my city, and it's been like Christmas Disney show and this kind of stuff. I probably done more things, but I don't remember. But anyway, it's pretty yeah, it's pretty nice to be able. I don't know, when I was younger, I was a lot more like only metal, only this. But as I've grown older, I appreciate more and more other styles of music. And to me, actually, it's been very positive singing other things, whatever, musical, pop, rock, anything, because it broadens my abilities in a way and my tastes. In fact, I've been for 3 years. It was in 2015, and after that 3 years, I was singing in a cover band. That's where you get the money, actually, in music. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the truth. And we've done different kind of songs, and actually some of the techniques that I've learned from singing there, I've used them in the new album. I remember I used to sing, I don't know what it was, a Race Against the Machine in that band. And I needed to do that small distortion for the vocals in some parts, and that's something I hadn't used before in Rainover, which is more melodic. But I incorporated that into some small parts of the new album. So everything adds to your style if you know how to use it. So to me, it's great when I sing solo too, because it doesn't mean getting away from Rainover, but actually learning new things that I can later use in the band. So it's very positive to me.
That makes perfect sense to me, that you're taking some of these new experiences and bringing them freshly to Rainover, and it does expand your skill set and things that you do within that band. And yeah, I was going to ask you about the Christmas shows because I saw that stuff online for sure. And it's like, I would love to see that entire performance.
And actually, it sounds beautiful because, when I was small, obviously, when I was 5, 6 years old, I wasn't singing metal. I was singing Disney songs and Whitney Houston and you name it. So it's like I grew up listening to those tracks. So being able to actually perform them for a live audience, it's been beautiful. And I also need to showcase a very different side of my voice, much lighter, much sweeter. So to me, it's very nice to be able to actually do that. And my mother has been bugging me for years. You should record a Disney CD for Christmas. So like, she's also satisfied that I'm doing this. So it's all fine to me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so like sometimes here I cover shows that are at Benaroya Hall, which is where the Seattle Symphony performs. And so sometimes they will have a guest vocalist come that sings contemporary songs with the symphony. So I've kind of heard some of those types of things. And I love hearing that when there's a really good vocalist backed by, a symphony situation. So, and did you, so that was recorded for a CD, is that correct?
No, that was a joke because because that's actually a CD that my mother is expecting me to do for years.
Oh, okay, I see.
There's something that she says, but no, it hasn't. I would love for it to happen, honestly, but it hasn't happened so far. I imagine the royalties you must pay to Disney must be a bit, yeah. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, you got my hopes up for a second. So, I can buy this somewhere. I can listen to.
No, but actually, I had like finally I got a proper recording microphone, which I have at home, which I wanted to have for years but never had. Finally, I have it. And because I'm working like 24/7 lately, so I haven't been able to actually do it. But at some point, I would love to be able to start doing some covers for YouTube, and I might record some of the Disney tracks whatsoever. I don't know, maybe I might try it.
That would be awesome, because I was just thinking about the same thing, that like Floor's been doing her covers on her YouTube, and other singers, especially during this last year, because it's like, what else can I do? And that would be another way to kind of keep you guys also out there, relevant with
I know,
as they're waiting. So that would be awesome to have you sing anything. It doesn't have to be a Disney song; just anything would be awesome to hear.
I know, and I don't know if people might get shocked if I sing, I don't know, some pop stuff or whatever, but I would like to try different styles. Also, maybe the difference is that while some people have had, I don't know, this time to reflect and work on themselves in the pandemic, to me it's been the contrary, because I had a lot of work to do. So when people were, I don't know, baking or recording or whatever, which I would have loved to do, I wasn't able to, because I was writing actually my doctoral thesis, which I finished some months back. So I've been super busy. But at some point, I hope to be back to being a person again and be able to do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, one, congratulations on your degree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Two, I don't know if, and you don't have to answer this, but I'm just curious. So what are you doing with your degree? Like, is that the line of work you're in now, or what are you doing?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, the reason why I've done a doctoral thesis, well, I always loved studying and everything, but the main reason is to become a university professor full time, which is actually what I've been working as for the past 4 years. But it was, how to explain this in English? It was a contract that is granted to some people by Spanish government, just to be able to get some formation into being a university professor and creating a doctoral thesis. Now that I've created, I'm walking the path to actually getting a spot there in university, which is pretty difficult, but I'm trying. Also, because eventually at some point it is a kind of job that leaves you some freedom. For example, you may choose to do all your lessons in some months and have the other months freer for touring or recording or whatever. So ideally it should be a kind of thing that would allow me to work also on music.
I see. Okay. And are you going to be, or are you teaching music, or what's the field that you're in?
No, it has nothing to do with music, actually. It is law.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So
nothing to do. I know. Civil law, actually.
Civil law. Okay. Yeah. So all these pieces are coming together for me in terms of how we were trying to set this up. And you were kind of telling me, Mark, I'm so busy this week and this week. I'm like, what is she doing? And now I know.
Yeah. And constantly you have, for example, I think it was last week, I had to hand in a complete book, which is made out of my thesis. So you can imagine I was a bit like, yeah. And I was on, Mark, if we can do it a week later. Yeah, that was why. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I perfectly understand now. It's like,
yeah.
And I always just take things at face value. If someone's busy, someone's busy. That's how it goes. I don't even need to know why they're busy. They just are. But I'm just always curious when I finally get things to happen. It's like, yeah, so what was going on then? Sometimes people will tell me this, and this. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like what you just described. I'm like, oh wow, I'm amazed you had time to do this right now. So,
I have to get time for the things I like to, I think. But yeah, we have this, and I also have the lessons at the same time, and plenty of other things that I get asked about by superiors and stuff. So yeah, thankfully I don't have children for now, so I can manage to do everything so far. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, Andrew, it's been amazing getting a chance to finally meet you. One, but two, to talk about Rainover and update everybody so everyone kind of knows that just keep on hanging in there, and that eventually the new album will be coming out. And is there anything else that you'd like to promote, plug, so that people are aware of what's going on with you and the band?
Basically, I just would like people to keep being as awesome as they've been for the past year, just resisting, waiting such a long time for us, and let them know that we, even if we've been quiet, behind the curtains, we've been working. We've been trying to get this album out because it needs to be out. We've been working on a video clip, which we've done with all our love, and just. I know some people might, I don't know, might have felt let down, whatever. I promise it will be worth it in the end, and you will have knocks out there and even more music that we're working on. So I just wanted to say that, and I want to say thank you also, Mark, for having me here, because it's been amazing to actually. I believe this is the first interview I do in all this time. Yeah. So it's been really amazing that it's been with you after 10 long years. And well, I hope it isn't the last one. And we managed to stay in touch. And maybe, I don't know, in some months I will tell you, okay, now the album has been released and we can properly talk about it. That will be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hope this is the start of future interviews that we do when you do know that things are all ready to get the green light, and let's start talking about dates and everything else that are coming out for the album. I would love to reconnect with you and do a follow-up interview, and just at any time about anything that's going on with you and or the band. I just wish you guys all the success in the world, and I hope that you stay safe over there in Spain. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for it's been 10 long years, but we finally made it happen. At some point we'll actually be in person. I don't know when that'll be, but maybe another 10 years. I don't know.
Hopefully earlier. That will be good news.
Yeah, for sure. So have a good night over there. And everybody that's watching this now, thank you for joining us, because I do see people who are watching, but they're just not in the chat. They're kind of shy, I guess. And Andrew, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and see you soon, I hope.
I hope so too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.